episode 2724 of the number one podcast and Apple podcast for job search. You are listening to or watching No BS Job Search Advice Radio. I'm your host, Jeff Altman, the Big Game Hunter, and welcome. People hire me for No BS job search advice and coaching globally because I make so much easier for people related to a job search and a lot of other things too. And today I'm continuing with some old information I shared a few years ago related to mistakes people make with their resume. Hope you find this helpful. If you're making any of these, stop. You're hurting yourself, and you're not going to get the results that you want anyway. And I'll just simply say I'll be back in just one moment. What are some of the mistakes job hunters make when they look for work? Well, here's one that happened yesterday. Person sent a resume to me that had microscopic fonts. These fonts were like in 6-point type. Now, what made it worse is what they did was lock their resume so you couldn't change anything. You couldn't change the size of the fonts at all. And they had this design around them where if you wanted to message them through Gmail and thus reveal your Gmail address, you could do that, but you couldn't send it to them through Outlook. And you were stuck with this resume that was too small to read. So skip the microscopic fonts. It's ridiculous. Here's one. And I took some notes down before. They have a resume that shows that they're out of work for more than a year. And in this particular case, it was, this is 2016 now as I'm recording this. And this resume indicated they've been out of work since 2014 without telling me when that year. So it could have been 2 full years that they've been out of work. They say they have the skills needed for 8 years, but don't explain what they did or anything about what they did or how they did it. Just that they work with it. They have the skill for 8 years. It's listed that way on their resume. Like they have a list of things there. I have 8 years of experience doing exactly what you're looking for. But they don't tell me when or where they have that 8 years. And as you can tell, this is a person with about 25 years of experience. So it becomes a waste of time. So be clear about what you've done and where you went about doing it so that this way, you're not wasting someone's time. Another stupid mistake that people make is they don't put an address on the resume. Now, some of you are going to say, well, my resume has, my phone number on it. You can figure out from there that where I am. And I understand the issue of identity theft, but let me put it bluntly. Or rather than blunt, let me just simply say that for many people, when we're doing a search for filling a position, I'm a third-party recruiter. I'm functioning in that way. Client has given me a position. I'm searching by a radius around a particular zip code rather than an area code. Why? The software works that way, number one. Number two is area codes aren't as accurate anymore as they once were. Why? Because people move and phone numbers are portable these days. So to use myself as an example, I have an area code of 646, even though I now live in an 828 area code. Why? Because I ported the number with me. Or people have Google Voice numbers that are for a particular area that they think is better than where they live. I have no idea where they are, but they have a particular area code and it doesn't really relate to where they are. So instead of relying upon the area code, minimally provide city, state, and zip code so that in this way someone can search for you in a database at a later date. See, people get ahead by being alert to opportunity. Sometimes those are internal to their organization. More often than not, they're external. So I want to encourage you, always put city, state, and zip code on your resume so that people can talk to you again. Another mistake people make is they don't quantify what the impact of their work was. Let me give you an example. I'll use that IT person. They talk about what they did. They talk about how they did it. They'll talk about this 2-year project to do so-and-so. And they developed code in whatever, Python, Java. It doesn't really matter for the purpose of illustrating this story. But they don't tell me how much money they helped their firm earn or save as a result of their work. So this could wind up being the most trivial application known to mankind. And all they're telling me is they programmed. Who cares? So yes, I want to know what they did, but I also want to know what the impact of what they did is. Because there's a difference between someone whose work helped to save $100 million and someone whose work helped to save $100,000 or make $100 million or save $100,000 or make $100,000. So always put yourself in the position where you're communicating clearly what you did and the impact of what you did, and don't just simply talk about what you did without quantifying its impact. Here's another thing. Ready? They put an objective on the resume. An objective. That antiquated notion from the 1950s where it was thought that what you wanted mattered. So they want to know what you wanted to be doing in your job. They don't care. They have their job to fill. If you don't like what they have to fill, you're not going to take it, right? But if you put an objective on the resume, more often than not, you're talking yourself out of the job. So don't bother. Seriously, don't bother. Another thing that they do that's really dumb, no months. They just have, as in the example I used before, 2010 to 2014. When in 2014 did you finish up, or when did you start in 2010? We're trying to find out if you have a gap. We're going to ask, why do you have to make it harder for us? Just give us the information, okay? Excuse me, I'm going to take a sip of iced tea. My throat's getting a little dry. Thank you for being patient. So don't include that nonsense there. Just very simply give us the information. They're vague in their resume, or provide too little information. The result winds up being we stare at a resume and it doesn't say anything. Now, the converse is also true. You can say way too much and bore the pants off of us. It is just awful, to read one of these 25-page resumes that sometimes, okay, I'm exaggerating, 10-page resumes that people send, and, it's just tedious to go through. So instead of doing that, just give us the information. That's simple. Give us the information and do it succinctly. Another mistake people make is in the visuals of the resume. They over-configure it, and they forget that everyone's screen lays things out a little bit differently. So one of the classic examples is a person puts a header on each page. Now, headers are an anachronism as well. They come back from that time where people actually used paper, and they were concerned about losing a sheet of paper on their desk if it got separated from the cover sheet or the first page of the resume. So headers made it easy. You just look at whose resume is this? Okay. He pulled it together. Now it's just a trap. And sometimes these headers wind up positioned in the wrong place on the page. So skip the headers. Be careful with your formatting to ensure that it works with more than one device, okay? Sometimes I get a resume where the markups that a person did are included. As a matter of fact, it's the first thing that I see in their resume. I had one of those last week that I thought was hysterical because you could see that he changed his dates of employment. Why would you do that? Why would you send send it to me in such a way that I could see all the changes that you made, and could see that you're lying to me? Stupid. And with that comes the notion of creative writing in your resume. You don't want to write creatively. You want to be accurate in what you depict and not create fictions. I had someone on this blab yesterday who was talking with me about a friend of his who got an interview for himself based upon lying about what he did. And he was going for a sales job. And I said, the one profession where some organizations will actually like that you lied to them. Bizarre. But for most professions, don't lie. They're going to find out anyway. Can't lie about dates because they'll send a letter to your former employer, discover that you lied, and they're going to fire you right on the spot once they find out. So skip the lying and just keep it very simple. Lastly, I covered all my points. Great. I apologize. This is where I'll wind up for today. And I'll say that, if you have questions about job hunting, message me. The address is thebiggamehunter@gmail.com. Send an email saying for your blab or no BS coaching on blab.im, something along those lines, so I know where you're coming from. And I'll simply say that, that's one good way of communicating with me. If you get to the blab a little late and or you don't feel like joining or you're feeling shy, you can email me at thebiggamehunter@gmail.com. And if you're a late joiner, you can join me now. Otherwise, I'll simply say that I'm back Monday through Friday on blab.im to help answer questions. Visit my website, thebiggamehunter.us. There's a lot there you can watch, listen to, or read to help you find work more quickly. If you're interested in my coaching you, that could be job.